Shed. We've set up a little table and chairs here. Jack's going to tell us a bit about his life story, starting from right back at the beginning, where he was born.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Bowen Terrace, Lady Bowen Terrace Hospital in Gregory Terrace, Brisbane. It's not operating anymore now, the hospital, but from then on we lived at Brighton, just out from Redcliffe. When I was about 8 years old, we shifted up to Running Creek, 12 miles from Woolurga, and on a dairy farm. There we had to learn to work, and work hard. My general routine of the morning was to get up and get the cows in. And I couldn't milk, I was too young, I hadn't learned. So my mother and father used to milk. I'd bail the cows up, separate, and then it was time to get ready to feed the pigs and things. Well, we had to feed the pigs. But later on we got us together, they got together to try and get a school at Running Creek. But they had a job to get enough pupils, but eventually they did, by letting my sister go very early to school. And we had the timber logs, but we had to cut them and get them cut up into timber. So my father and I went out and we felled the trees. I was only a kid. We fell them, cut them.
Do you remember how old you were, Jack?
About 9 then.
About 9-year-old.
About 9-year-old I was then. I went out with the old crosscut and cut the timber. A bullocky there snug him. He pulled it into a sawmill which was about 3 k's away. The sawmill cut him. The bullocky then sneaked him down to where the school was built, called Running Creek School. And it was there until just after just the beginning of the war, and then it was no more pupils, and they closed the school. But I went down, I used to go down daily and hand the nails and the saws and all that sort of thing while the men around the district got to work and built the school. I don't think any of them was carpenters, but they did a good job. It was only a one-man school, a one-room school, and one teacher. We had a job to keep teachers there because they'd come out from the college and they wouldn't never been in the bush before. They had to learn to ride a horse, and they had to cope with flooded creeks and all that sort of business to keep the school going. But I didn't have much chance to get to school very much. My job of the morning was to get the cows in, to give the pigs some milk after the separating was done, and feed the calves. My father worked at the mill to cut the timber. He worked at that mill, and he had about 3 k's to go to work. And when we finished the dairy and we go down and I'd get his push bike out while he had breakfast, he'd go off to work, and I'd go and get the horses in and on the slide, go down the paddock, bring on pumpkins and cucumbers and pine melons and watermelons, all that stuff up, and light a fire and go down the creek and get a drum of water from the creek to boil up the pumpkins and that for the pigs. And then when I get all that done, I'd have to let the horses go back down to the house and get ready for school. I'd run to school, but I used to get very tired, and I'd go to sleep in school and I'd get woken up by the teacher quite often. But when I got home, the same routine would go on again. I had to go through it all again. Father get home about 5 o'clock and he'd help finish off the dairy and that. And we'd be having tea, sat opposite me at the table, and I'd go to sleep. So he'd wing over and whack me across the face and said, "Wake up. Now go and wash up and finish your tea, wash up for your mother." I'd go and do that now. He said, "We'll wake you up a bit." He said, "Light the hurricane lamp." He said, "We'll go up in the hill and split some posts." So we go up there.
It's a tough old bugger, wasn't it?
We'd go up in the hill and we'd go splitting posts. Well, the wife's grandfather and grandmother, they lived, as they walked right around, it'd be about 2 k's, but across would only be about 1. And they'd get up during the night, he'd hear them all on wedges going, bashing these posts up. Anyhow, he'd often come over and she'd talk to my mother, and the wife's grandfather come up to where we were. And once he got the old man talking, well, then I'd stay for a little while, then I'd sneak off and get to bed. And that's the way he used to do it, so I'd get a bit of sleep. But after some time, we sold that property and bought another place. And it was about another 3 miles further on. But it had all made in place. We had to clean it all up. No water much on it. We had to dig it down, so he built a new wheelbarrow. It's all right for him, but his hands are stuck right out because he made it a bit wide and big, thick handles. And we had to go down and dig that. We dug it about 8 foot deep, and I suppose a chain long and the best part of a chain wide. Took a long while to do it, but day and night with the wheelbarrow, it's marvellous what you can do. But we did it. But then we had to start burning off, and a lot of dead timber, so we had to burn off this timber. So you get up in the morning, make a cup of tea. We go down before daylight and stoke the fires all up. And we go back then, and it'll be getting daylight. We go up then and probably do some fencing, do some other work, and then we come back for breakfast. And we take a quicker run around the fires then, and then we go back up and do our other work. We come back for dinner, quick run around the fires again, and go back up onto our other jobs. Then we come back at night, just a bit before dark, have a quick run around the fires. We'd have tea, and then he'd say, we'll go out now and we'll really make the fires up and light them all. And we go out there many a time, being 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night before we get the fire done. And then in the morning was the same routine again. Then he started building an extension on the house, and we pulled the old house down where we were in the first place. I carried the whole roof of our big house up on my head at 2 or 3 sheets of iron at a time.
3 kilometres across.
Yeah.
Fetched it all across by
you. Yeah, on my head,
yeah.
The iron.
Yeah.
Windy days were terrible. It was hard to hold on.
I bet it was.
It was just like having a sail on you. But anyhow, we got it there and we got the house built. But he was hard. He was hard, and when he'd go off to work, he'd always set a certain amount of work for us to do, because when he come home on Friday night, this time he was going up to the same sawmill, but the sawmill had shifted. It shifted into Kilkeven, to the railway yard there. And that meant he had about 24 k's to go. And we had an old shev, grasshopper shev they call them. They had 2 half springs in the front. But talk about kick when you try to start it, kick your head off. But no one would crank it. I was the only one that would crank it. I was only young, but I was the only one that cranked this old car. And I used to have the push bike and tie it on behind, and I had a lot of gates on the road in. Monday morning I had to go in with him, so in case she stopped, because he wouldn't crank her, he wouldn't get near her. She'd kick like mad. So I used to have to go and crank the old car. If she stopped on the road, I had to be there to crank her. And then Friday evening I'd have to go back when he come home Friday night. I'd have to go in again and crank the old girl. Oh yeah, it was a pretty tiring job. But I got a job on a dairy farm then, and we had milking 60 cows. And I was only there a little while, and he decided he wanted to go for a holiday down to Harvey Bay. So he went down to Harvey Bay, and he's only going to stay 2 weeks, but he stayed a month. And I was there with 60 cows on my own, and pigs to feed, calves to feed, cream to take in about 2 mile into the town to catch the train, and ploughing to be done. And he left me as a kid to look after the lot.
How old were you then, Jack?
I was only about 14 then.
Yeah.
And after he come home, he tried to cut my wages down from £1 to 10 shillings, and I wouldn't be in that. So I went in. I got a job on the council on relief work. Of course, the depression days were pretty hard, and I got a job on the council, and put my age up to 17 and got on, and I went shoveling creek gravel into trucks all day long, and I'd ride me push bike home of a Saturday afternoon and ride it back after tea Sunday afternoon, 24 mile into Kilkeven, about 8 mile out of Kilkeven where we were doing the road. But I done a tyre in, it cost me £1 to buy a new tyre, and he went mad because I spent £1, wasted me money buying £1 to buy a tyre. How I was going to get from backwards and forwards for work I wouldn't know without the push bike. But anyhow, that cut out, and he did another pretty cunning trick on me. He took on a fencing contract. We got a man to come and help me do this fencing contract. We done 1 week and we went home the weekend, and he told the bloke, he said, look, he said, he can't go on with the fence, he hasn't got the money. He found out he didn't have enough money. He said, we'll have to let it go. So he paid the bloke for the week, and he said to me, you get over there, he said, and get that fence done. I had to go over and I had to turn around and pull the trees, split the posts, carry them all, strainers and all, bore them, put the wire in and everything for the fence. I come home one weekend and I said, there's a big football match on in Kilkeven. I'd just love to go to that football match. I'd ride the horse. No, he said, you don't want to go there. He said, you're only wasting money. He said, to go there. He said, no, he said, you go over and you stay over there and work. Don't come home next weekend, you stay there. So I went over and worked, and I didn't know that 20 years later that he got in the car and took the whole family, and they all went, except me. I was there fencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing the fence. Anyhow, after that was all over and that, by this time, with all the other work we had to do and that, and we started well singing, and I had to dig the well because when we get down a little bit, I couldn't wind him up. He was too heavy for me as a kid. I couldn't wind him up. It wasn't too bad digging, but when it come to rock and I had to drill it and put the explosive down, I was a bit nervous on that bit. I used to always squeeze the detonators in my teeth. He'd get behind the tree. He was too frightened. And I'd squeeze him and I'd go down and set the charge, light him, and then he'd wind me up. But the ones I was really frightened of, we had a few didn't go off. And I didn't like them. I left them overnight, but I didn't like going down pricking them out again. I was frightened of that, but I had to do it. So I did it. And I got it all done. But later on, one day we was out working, and but I don't know what happened to this day. I don't know what stirred him up or nothing, but we was winging a bark and he started to do his lolly. And he used to love getting a belt, and if you broke a cup or a saucer, you was in for a flogging. That's no way. If there was visitors there, he'd leave it till next day. He'd get you. He'd give you a hiding for it. And this day he went really mad at me, and I didn't know what for really. And I thought, oh, this is it. No more. I thought, I went back for dinner. We did. I went down the shed and I got a bag, a chart bag, got it ready. I stuck a bit of an old coat I had in it, one shirt and a pair of trousers. I had sixpence in my pocket and I took off that night. I walked about 6 miles, a little better, and I hid because I knew he'd gone to the police and I wanted to get in to jump the rattler. And I thought he'd go to the police, but anyhow he didn't get a good reception there. The police wouldn't do anything about it because they knew what he was. So the police made him just forget about it. So I planted there that night and I moved on next day and got into the railhead, and I waited for the 10 o'clock train to come through, and I jumped down on, went to daylight. And I was a bit frightened I was going to get caught. And I knew the police would be on the lookout anyway. They would have been. He'd have had his own way. But anyhow, I jumped off as she come into the station. I lied between a couple of logs in the yard there until the train went out and things settled down a bit from then, and then I took off again. And my first walk was about 250 miles. I had a pair of boots, but I couldn't wear them because they used to give me blisters. So I carried me boots, and they called me the hobo that carried his boots. That was the name I got. And I got into Dalby one night. I was hungry, cold, and didn't know where I was going to go. Didn't know where I was going, which way. I didn't know where I was going to camp. But it was a Saturday night. I remember this because a lot of men going to lodge. I walked down the main street and there's a street going off to the right, so I took that one and went down about 2 houses, and there was a nice book pine in the bloke's front yard, and it was about 10 foot high but widespread in the bottom. I thought, well, this would do me, so I slipped in the gate and slipped underneath her, and I camped underneath the pine tree in his front yard till daylight. Then I took off the next day, and I walked another couple of 100 miles all together, and I got a job then fencing. And the trouble was, the boss that had the contract on the station, it was a station just been cut up. His son was getting married, and they cut it up and gave him 52,000 acres for a wedding present, and they were getting it all done up for him. And the boss that had the contract, he was gone away, but he left another half-caste chap there, and he was working a good little work, a good little bloke, but I had to use his crowbar, which was 70 pound weight, and I was hungry and tired, and it nearly killed me, this crowbar. But I had to put 50 sandalwood posts in a day and bore 6 holes in it every day, and I'll tell you, that was a pretty hard job for me.
Yeah. How old were you then, Jack, when you left home?
I was about 15 and a half.
About 15 and a half.
Yeah, and then a bloke wanted a man to help him, and he was putting a dam down about 7 k's away from where we were fencing. They were putting a dam down for water on the property, and he lent me to him. Well, I went there and I worked there, and after a while I got driving the dozer. You had to have a man to operate the scoop those days, so I was doing that for a while, but then I got a job driving the little bulldozer. Anyway, I never got paid for the pension job, and I they shifted, and I had to go away for a few days, and I went away and I come back, and they'd shifted and gone another 30 or 40 miles away, so I had to turn around and carry my swag off down there. But after a while he never paid me neither, so I got jack of it all. So I thought, well, there must be bean picking back here around Karoi. So I humped the bluey back here to Gympie, went down to Karoi. It wasn't quite ready. So I went out to Jimda. I met a bloke out named Ollie Dwyer. He had 2 bullock teams, and he taught me a few things, and I started driving some bullocks for a while. But we had a terrible wet season. Rained all the time, showers of rain, and they couldn't cut because they couldn't, trucks couldn't pull it in. I had to go up a range. It was too slippery, and we had to go down a range which we had to turn the log on behind the truck because it was too steep. And I stuck it out there, and then it really set into rain really good and proper. And I said, this is no good, I'm all. So I went to see the bloke that owned the bullock. He was responsible for my wages, although I wasn't actually working for him. He was responsible for my wages at this time, because he'd take it out of the timber of the truckie, because we'd haul on the truck too. And anyway, he said, oh, I can't give you money. He said, I haven't got no money. Well, I said, I'm going. Well, he said, you can't go. I said, why? Well, he said, all the creeks are in flood. He said, you can't go at all, he said. You've got to stay here, he said, and I'm not giving you any money. Well, I said, I'm going. I said, we were camped about a quarter of a k away from him. So I said, I'm going. I said, I'm going straight into the Union. Well, he said, you can't go, so you won't be able to go to the Union, will you? I said, yes, I will. I'm going. So I went back and I said to the bloke that had the truck, I said, I'm going now. He said, well, you'll be back tonight. I said, no, I won't. So I went to him, and I passed by his camp. I said, well, I'm going. All right. Oh, he said, if you're going easy, check. He said, but you'll be back. He said, you can't go. So I swam the creeks, 5 creeks, and got into Kilcoy. And when I got there, the rail motor was held up. The water was right over the bridge. The rail motor couldn't go. So I was stranded there. I didn't attempt to go any further there. I stayed there for a week till it went down a bit, and I got the train out a bit, and then I come back here into Karoi. And we just got to Karoi. I picked up with a mate there, and another bagman. We camped out at the showground. We went into town. The first thing we ran into was the old sergeant of police in the street. He pulled us up. He said, "Don't get any ideas in your head." He said, "You're going to jump the rattler out of here." He said, "No one gets out of here." He said, "We'll get them all," he said. I said, "We don't intend to jump the rattlers." He said, "That's what you all say." He said, "You're only new here," but he said, "I'm warning you, don't try it." I said, "No, righto." So we went back to the showground at Karoi, and another bloke there, he said, "I want to go to Brisbane tonight." You're going down to Brisbane. "How are you going?" He said, "We're on the rattler." Well, I said, "We'll come and help you. You got a push bike." So we got down to the station. We got the bike on the train when it was ready to pull out. Threw the bike on, and he jumped on, and away he went. So we picked beans for a while, but the bloke, the boss was away, and the bloke in charge, he wouldn't let us stop to have smoke out. So me and my mate said, "We don't want none of this. We're going." So we walked off. I went around to his house, and he lived near the railway station in Karoi. Went and got our money, and that night we jumped the rattler ourselves. And this young fellow, he said, "You can come with me." He said, "As long as you can keep up with me." He said, "I'm a very fast walker." He said, "As long as you can keep up with me," he said, "you can come." I said, "Oh, I'll keep up with you all right." Anyhow, we weren't on the road very long, and I was carrying his swag on my own too. He couldn't keep up with me, this young fellow.
Was he younger than you or older? He was younger than you.
We were around the same age. Yeah, around near enough. Anyhow, we got down to Brisbane, and we stayed there the night, and we headed off. We were heading out towards, we were going out to Stanthorpe way. So we got out the first station out of Brisbane, and here comes a goods train. I said, "Will you get on her?" And he said, "We can't, she's too fast." I said, "Oh, will it be on her?" So I said, anyhow, I said, "I am, we'll be on her." So I chucked my swag on, and the next thing he threw his on, and we got aboard her, and by the time we got on, we was about 3 or 4 carriages down. And yeah, we jumped over back from one to the other and got up to our swags. And we knew she was heading Ipswich way. We knew that we couldn't go in Ipswich railway yard because we'd be caught for sure. She was sudden death, Ipswich. So anyhow, we threw our swags off and jumped off. He said, "We're going too fast to get off." Well, I said, "I'm going. I'm not getting caught." So I threw the swag and jumped off. Next thing he threw his and jumped off. And we humped our swags through to Stanthorpe. And we done a bit from there. We done from Stanthorpe. Cold. When we got into Stanthorpe, you talk about cold. We shivered that night. And we just got out of Stanthorpe, and westerly winds come up. We camped in all day in a fire in a quarry inside the road. We took off the next day and walking towards Texas. And we had no tucker in the bag. We went into a ration station there, and the bloke said, "Well, all I got is a little bit of corn mutton." He said, "You can have that." Well, we was that hungry, we grabbed it, and we went down and we lit a fire and we grilled it, but it was all salt and it took all the skin off a little. But anyhow, we ate it. We got along a bit further and we still wanted tucker, so we went into another tobacco place, and they was doing in where the kilns were, they was sorting the back and that. And they said, "Well, you can have what's in that bread bin, mate." He said, "You can take it." We opened it up with one dry crust in it. So we took that and we shared that. It was like, it was hard as iron. But when we walked out the door, one fellow said, "Here, mate," he said, "this is all I got, you can have it." And he gave us 6pence. So that would have been handy. Anyhow, we finished up. We got out, got to Gundywindi, and we found a rabbit trap, and we had it set trying to catch one of these mickeys to eat. Yeah, before we got to Gundy though, we pulled in at a Yalarbin. Yalarbin, it was my 21st birthday. And we had no tucker, so we goes up the street, raining like mad, goes up the street, and the old butcher was good, he gave us half a dozen sausages. So we thought, we'll boil these. That's all we had, we boil these. Anyhow, we were there, and one long, and bang, come in through the recreation hut there at the showground, bang, in come a bloke, in come a swag. And the next thing, another bloke come rolling in. And they were on the metho. But anyhow, we didn't take much notice. One would look after the other. One would go on the horrors and the other one would look after him. Then they'd change around. And we thought, well, we get these sausages on, we'll have a birthday dinner, 23rd birthday dinner. So we got these sausages and got a fire going under a bit of a shelter. And these blokes kept going out. We took no notice of them. But anyhow, come dinner time, we thought the sausages would be good. Went out to get them, and they'd been out and put metho in it. And we couldn't eat our sausages. So we didn't have no 21st birthday dinner. I missed out on that. And then we said it was raining like mad. I said, well, we're off to Gundy. We're going to Gundy. So we walked off to Gundy. We got in there, and on a Monday morning I hunted around. Oh, I heard of a drover about 20 miles out. He wanted some men. So I said, that'll do me. So I got in there, got onto the mail coach, and I went out to the drovers. Got out there in the evening. Oh yes, he wanted a man all right. So I got a job droving. I was droving sheep then. We took a mob of sheep, and I like to get where we took them. We took them a good way anyway. But anyway, when we coming back, the first night, still raining, the cook, he rigged up a big fly they had and rigged it all up. And I said to the boss, I said, he put his bunk under there, he's camping under there. I said, we got to have a fly over us. Well, he said, you can't take it off that bloke. I said, why not? Well, he said, he can fight like a thrashing machine. He said he wouldn't like it if you took it off him. Well, I said, here goes. So I went and I ripped it off him. And I said, right, we'll put her up. So we put her up. And he lied out in the rain all night. He wouldn't come under it. We had that fly. And then when we finished it, got back into the Gundy Windy, he went off down, he come from Yepman. He went off down to Yepman. Then I was on the track again, hunting the blue again. And a bloke come along in a car. He said, where are you heading? Oh, I said, looking for a job. Well, he said, can you ring bark? Oh, yeah, I said, I've been used at ring bark. I hadn't run bark at tree hardly. But anyhow, I said, yeah. Well, he said, there's a bloke out here, he wants you out here. You take it. I said, good, I'll go. So I went out there and started ring barking out there. Anyway, I was out there for a while, and the station owner came out. He said, can you ride a horse? I said, yeah. He said, can you grease windmills? I said, well, I don't know about that. I didn't like the height of the windmill too much. And he said, come on, he said, come into the station for them, and I'll bring you back. So he took me to grease his windmill, but he wanted done. And he said, you better stay here the night. He said, you grease another one tomorrow, a couple, he said. So anyhow, we did that. He said, I think you better stay here, he said. He said, stay here, he said, and he said, my head stockman's leaving, he's retired. He said, then stockman. And while I was there, on the way in, when he come out to get me on the way in, he had a noise in his car. He just bought a new car. He said, I've had it everywhere, no one can fix it. He said, I had it back to the agents, I've had it Brisbane to Womba, no one can fix it. Well, I said, you got any tools? He said, yes. Well, I said, stop and I'll fix it. So I got out, it was the fan belt slipping a bit. So I tightened the fan belt up and that was good. Then when I got into the station, he talking about, he said, we're short of horses. He said, my niece is boyfriend's got one of my horses down there, but it's a pretty rough horse. He said, I don't know whether you'd better ride. He said, you better. He said, I'll get you to bring it in anyway. I said, oh, that's okay. So he went and brought the horse back to the station. So I got up at daylight next morning and I got on him and took him for a burn. He was all right. And then that guy put a feather in my cap again. And this boyfriend, he said he had an old Duran motor car. He said it bailed up on him. He had to get towed home. That night they went out and had to get towed home. He said, I've been here a week. He said, I can't get the thing, get a kick out of it. He said, I don't know what's wrong with it. He said, it means I'll have to get a mechanic out. He said, which will be about 250 k's away. He said, but even if it was going, he said, you can't start it. He said, I'm the only one that can start it. I said, well, yeah. So anyhow, this was at tea time. So I up before daylight next morning and hopped out. And the first thing I come across, the coil wire fell out. Yeah. So I was up under the dash those days, so I put the coil wire in, give her a wind and away she went. And he come running out. He couldn't make it out how I got that thing going. He said, what's wrong with it? I said, a lot of little things wrong with it. But I said, it's all right now. So that put another feather in my cap. But then it was just after that the war broke out. And I thought, well, I'll go home now for a while. And I went home and I broke in a few horses on the property there. And
so you stayed back at the family home again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How old then, Jack?
Oh, I'd be around, must have been around 23. Yeah. 23. And I broke in a few horses and that on the station. And I went down then and it would come monsoon weather again. Rain like mad. And I decided I'd better join the AIF. So I joined the army. So I went down to Maryborough and I joined the militia first to get a feeling of it all. And to get down there, the creeks was all in flooded again. That seemed to be my long suit, going somewhere with creeks up. Anyway, I carried my push bike up in the air across the log and I rode down to Maryborough. I suppose it'd be about 60 k's or more to Maryborough. I got down there, went before a doctor. He said, well, you're the fittest and the best built man, he said, I ever put in the army. He said, there's one thing I can't understand. What's wrong with your eyes? He said, they're all red and running. I said, well, I just rode a push bike about 60 k's in this monsoon rain and wind. Oh, he said, that accounts for it, he said. He said, where are you sleeping tonight? I said, I'm going to ride me bike home tonight. Oh, he said, that's your trouble. He said, that's why your eyes are like that, he said. So I joined up to leave in a fortnight time. So I caught the train in Kilkeven, went to Maryborough, and I done militia training down there and infantry training in the militia. Anyhow, then I went then I joined the AIF. And before I joined the AIF, I was called up for medical. And when I went to the doctor, I knew him from out west. And he said, you're going to be discharged. I said, why? He said, count your foot. He said, you had a broken foot there, been broken in 3 times. There's 3 places. I said, yes. Well, the horse fell and broke it. Well, he said, they're going to discharge you over that because when you wear these boots, he said, when we had a foot inspection, all your foot was red, where that was broken. I said, yeah. But I said, it'd be all right. No, he said, they'll discharge you. But he said, seeing I know you, I'll give you a tip, he said. Get out of this infantry and get into the medical unit, or otherwise you're gone. If you want to stay in, join the medical. Well, I said, that's it, I'll join the medical. So I did. Went down to Red Bank in Brisbane, and I worked in the hospital down there. I'd done a lot of night work down there because the sisters used to always fight over me because I wouldn't run away at night time, because the men used to go and hide in the toilets and their sisters would have to be on the go all the night. But I used to do all the rounds all night and keep reporting back to the sister all the time, and I'd get up in the morning and go on early around me patients and taking temps and other things. I had 60 patients with mumps and all that sort of paper, and I had to treat all of them. And anyhow, then we got transferred then down to Tamworth in New South Wales. But the morning we was to go, I finished up with sore throat. It was a bit lumpy. And I knew the little corporal there, and I said, look at this guy. He said, Mum's eh? I said, yeah, I probably caught him there. Or he said, you'll have to stay behind. I said, no, don't let me stay behind. I said, I'll be going. He said, well, as long as you report when you get back down there. I said, yeah, I'll report. So I did, and I finished up in a hospital at Tamworth for a fortnight. And I came out, and it was all drafted then, ready to go overseas. So they come to us, they said, Ray, in the morning, they said, you'll be up at 2 o'clock. We'll be having a cuppa and you'll be heading down to the station. We're heading off. So we did. We went to Sydney. It was a Sunday evening, and we got on the boat there in Sydney, and we went to over to the Middle East. Do
you remember the name of the boat, Jack?
Queen Mary.
Queen Mary.
Queen Mary it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, went over to Queen Mary. I worked with another chap in one of the RAPs there, going over in the boat. Had accident station right at the back of the boat, in case of trouble. Got it?
Okay, that's it again, Jack.
Yeah, I had action stations at the rear of the boat in case something happened. Nothing did happen, but we had a bit of excitement one day. We had some nurses on board, and I was up on one of the decks where my RAP was, and heard some yelling and screaming going on. And I rushed outside, and heard some nurses coming up the steps, and they got hit with a wall of water coming down the steps. Just nearly knocked them down. They thought they were hitting where we were sinking, but I didn't know much about sewage of that these days. But I ran into the toilet, and someone had chogged the toilet up, and she'd flooded, and she was pouring water everywhere, all over the place. And as they walked up and the ship lurched, it come shooting down the steps at them, and they yelled and screamed. But I had the presence of mind. I switched the tap off, and that saved the day there. But we had apart from it was too crowded. The ship was too big altogether. We met a bloke going on the boat that we knew, and before we marched on the boat, we knew him. He was in our camp, but in another mob, and we saw him march on the boat. We were standing near the door. We said, we'll see you after. 3 weeks went by and we never ran against him again in 3 weeks on the ship. There were blokes going without their meals that many times they couldn't find the dining room. It was as big as a house, that they couldn't find it. It was that big.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the swimming pools, oh shit, it was a big ship. But it was a very fast ship, thank goodness, because one night, every night they put on the extra space when it got dark. The Queen Mary was on one on the left of us, and at night time they closed in very close. And this night it was to be about 7 o'clock. I was up on the top deck looking around, and next thing they hit her. There was a German raider coming over, and they chasing us. That come over the horizon after us, but they had so much pace. The Queen Mary just went one way, the Lizzie went the other, and away they went. And they couldn't catch us.
Yeah.
It was night time, they couldn't get near us. Anyhow, we got over there, and it was hot, terrible hot. The food was no good. Terrible food on the Queen Mary. And when we was crossing the equator, they decided that we had to have extra salt. So they give us extra salt in the ham and everything. Oh, salty, you couldn't eat it anyhow. So we didn't get it anyway. So anyhow, we got orders after just over 3 weeks. They said, well, you'll be coming off the boat in the morning after breakfast. We'll be landed. So it was that hot, and we packed all that gear up, put all the stuff away, just kept the shorts and that on. And we got up in the morning, went up for breakfast, and you talk about cold. Overnight, we changed from the heat to the cold. Oh, gee, it was cold. We had to all go down and unpack and put our warm clothes all on and pack our other stuff away, freezing. And we got there and we got over on Port Chufik and landed. The barge took us ashore and we landed there. We got a cup of tea there, sitting down on the wharf having a cup of tea. And I had a lump of cheese and a bit of bread in my left hand, me pannikin of tea in my right hand. And before I knew where it was, a big hand come over the back of my neck, grabbed me cheese and me blipping bread, and it was gone. It was an Arab. He took the lot. I had no dinner. So then we got on the train then, and we went from there. There's some funny things happened there, but I couldn't say it on this. But there's some terrible funny things happened. But we went down and we crossed over from down at Alcantara. We crossed over into Palestine and went down near Jerusalem all night in the train. Took about cold, freezing, and I think the trains had particularly had square wheels made for us to keep it away. She was shocking. But anyhow, we went down there. We got out of Gaza first, and I worked in the hospital of Gaza for a while. Then we went down near Jerusalem. But then we just about ready to, it was only more or less the mopping up of the Germans to do when they decided they were going to shift us, and we thought we was coming back to Australia. So all our advance party got all the gear together, and they took all 4 trucks and all our medical supplies and all our kit bags and everything went. And a fortnight later we were coming. But the boat came in, the Orchids came in from England with a mob of English soldiers on, and they took over from us, and we boarded the Orchids to come back home.
What was the name of it, Jack? The
Orchids.
Orchids.
Yeah. And we got to Colombo the night that Singapore fallen. There was a big, terrible big fire there. But no one can say that the Australian Navy blokes who were the Navy didn't work. You ought to be near that night and seen how those boys worked. All night, flat out with their little putt-putt boats, running here, trailing there. God, you'd no idea without you were there to see how those Navy worked. But anyhow, we refueled there. We pulled out there about 9 o'clock next morning. Plane flew over and waved us ta-ta, and we headed off out. We didn't get out only about an hour out, and here's one of our destroyers coming in with the side blown out of her. So we was heading out into that. The skipper, he lowered all lifeboats down to the water level in case of trouble. We had them down right on the water line. He was travelling under seal orders all the time, but never knew where we were going. We were still hoping we were going to come home. But we didn't know. But anyhow, we finished up, we pulled into the harbour of Batavia. Not Batavia, Sumatra. We pulled in there about 9 o'clock one morning. A big Dutch officer come aboard. He said, don't send any men ashore. He said, Sumatra's gone. He said, there's one bridge they got to cross that our blokes had blown a mile away. He said, they crossed that. He said, yeah, Sumatra's gone. We hung around about 2 o'clock. They said, all right, you're off. So a barge come putting in, a landing barge, loaded us on, and we headed off. We had no equipment, none whatsoever. We had all mixed variety of men on, pioneers, machine gunners, and no equipment. And the officers had none, a few pick handles, and that's about all. So we went, and the time we got into the wharf, there'd been an air raid. But anyway, we tied up there. Orders come through, get back to your boat as soon as you can. Sumatra's gone. They crossed the bridge. No one to take the boat back. It was well and truly dark then. No one to take the ship back at all, that boat. So they sent an SOS out. We had some signals on from the Middle East. They went up and tried to signal to the boat, but no one would answer. The Navy wouldn't answer. Our ship wouldn't answer because they thought it could have been the enemy. So they kept at it and kept at it. Nothing happened. But lucky for us, there was a tremendous black cloud in the sky, right over where our ships were anchored. Terrible black sky. You couldn't see a hand in front of you. Anyhow, after a long time, we got an answer from the Navy. They had a lot of ships in there in the harbour. They said, well, we can't do anything. He said, we're flat out to getting our ships out. He said, we've got to get our ships out. But he said, I don't know whether your ship's gone or not. But he said, if anything did happen later on in the night, he said, and we possibly can, he said, we'd send a man in for you. But he said, at this stage, no. So we just sat there on the boat. We didn't even get off. And anyway, sometime...
On the landing boat, was it, Jack?
On the landing boat.
Yeah.
Sometime during the night, I don't know what time it was, we couldn't see our watches anyhow, we heard a putt-putt come. And it was the Navy sent a bloke in. And he come up on board and he said, well, he said, I don't want any of you to whisper, not even a whisper of any description. He said, because we don't know whether your ship's in or not. He said, we can't get an answer. He said, and he said, if you whisper, even a low whisper, he said, it'll set up a hum. He said, and it'll protect me from picking up the creeping of the anchor chains if she's still here. So he said, no noise whatsoever. And everybody was silent, dead silent. And anyway, he got her going, and we get heading out. And it was just a little bit before daylight. And he said, we've got your ship an answer. He said, she's still here. He said, she's all ready to go. Yeah. So anyhow, it was only a few seconds that then we'd right on top of her. He couldn't see her for the dirty cloud. And we was right on top of her. And he pulled in, they dropped the gangplank. 3 officers come down and made one on the right, one on the left, and one on the centre. And as we come in, they almost pitched us up the gangplank, up into the boat, and took off. They were putting the gangplank up when they was almost moving, and we were aboard her, and away we went.
How many men were in the landing boat, Jack, approximately? Do you remember? Like, was it a big barge?
Oh, I suppose it would have been the best part of 400 on.
Yeah, right. So
roughly, I'd say rough guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put a point.
No,
really,
no
figure on it, but around that.
It was a pretty big landing boat.
Oh yeah, a pretty big landing boat, yeah. Anyhow, we headed off. We didn't go very far, and we turned around the corner and ran into some of our Navy boats coming towards us. They passed us. They only went a few bit further around the corner and run smack bang into the Japanese Navy, and they all got sunk. Our ships had blown to pieces. Anyhow, we finished up. We got to Batavia and Java, and we landed there. And when we got off, we stood on the wharf for a while. They said, all back on. So we got on. We had 12 nurses with us. All got back on the boat, and we're going to head off. And then we stayed on it for a while. They said, all off again. So we all got off again. And we were off for about an hour or so. They said, righto, we're off. All back on, we're going. So we headed off, and we got out in the harbour, and we anchored there for 2 days in the harbour. Then she kicked over again. Oh, we thought Australia for sure. We're going home. Anyhow, they come back into Batavia there, and they said, well, we've got Air Force here that got away from Singapore. They've got no planes or nothing here. They said they'd be more important to get them back home to Australia than what it will you men. So they said, what we'd have to do, we'll put you men off, and we'll put the Air Force back on and take them back home. So they put the Air Force back on, and we went off, our nurses went off. They went up to Princess Juliana Hospital in Batavia, working, and we headed off down to Central Java to Bandung. Had a few air raids down there, but we had no equipment whatsoever. They were just flying over doing what they liked. Anyhow, we got word in a few more days that the ship was still in. So they decided then that she was definitely having to go. So they rushed up and got our nurses from Princess Juliana Hospital, got them back on the boat, and she took off. And she went back to India, and she unloaded them there and put them on another boat for Australia, which they came home. And the Orchidees headed back for England, and she got blown to pieces. And we were there in Bandung then, Central Java. Went down by train to Central Java and Weary Dunlop. And we opened up the first Australian General Hospital in Batavia, in Bandung. And we started to receive a lot of wounded in there then, and the Japs had well and truly landed on Java, and they were giving Java a bit of a pelting. Anyway, we were there for a while, and they decided then that we had no equipment. We had absolutely nothing whatsoever to fight with, so the only thing was to chuck it in. But in the meantime, they'd left Java behind, the Japs did, and headed for Australia, because they had Borneo and all in places, and Java only little place. And they thought, well, there's nothing there, we'll leave that. So, but our heads were very cunning. They kept announcing that the 7th, 6th, 7th and 9th Division well-seasoned troops from the Middle East had safely arrived on Java. So they thought they did it so the Japs would pick it up, because they were heading for Australia. So they decided then that there was no good leaving 3 well-seasoned troops back in Java behind them, to come in behind them, and they'd chop them off, and that'd be the end of them. But so they turned the convoy back to Java, and by that time the Yanks were starting to come getting out here, but they weren't ready. And they come back there, and they had trucks and truckloads of wool packs of invasion money for Australia, and they come back there and dropped it off on Java. But when they discovered that when they took Java, they discovered there's these three well-seasoned battalions from the Middle East. They couldn't find them. So they got some of our blokes lined up, and they said, you go out and get them and bring them in, or we'll shoot you. We'll give you 10 days to get them here. But in the meantime, that 10 days, they discovered they weren't there at all. There was none there. There's only 1,000 us from the Middle East. The 1,000, that's where it's got Weary Dunlop 1,000, 1,000 from the Middle East, and a few that got away from Singapore there. So they were tricked there. Well, then we were, the Japs come one afternoon and marched down the road 4 deep, all, they say little Japanese, they were all 6-footed invasion troops. They were all over 6 foot and over. Yeah? Yeah, they come marching down that road, and they split off and took some, come into the hospital, and that were walking around. I was happened to be lying down at the time that they came. I wasn't doing anything, I was lying down in the big gymnasium next to the hospital. It was the Dutch training hospital. I went home for the officers, and he come to the door. I had my eyes screwed up on him, and I was wondering what's going to happen next. But anyhow, he didn't do anything. But anyhow, they said, all right, we don't want your motor cars, but you have to get them registered in the Japanese registration. You have 10 days to do it. If you're caught with that car unregistered in 10 days, you'll be shot. We don't want your wirelesses, but you have to register them in the Japanese registration. So then they said, we don't want your money, you're only allowed to have so much money. If you're caught with more, you'll be shot. So the people went and got their wirelesses registered under the Japanese, got their cars registered under the Japanese, handed their money in, what we didn't pitch away, and then when they got that, the 10 days over up, right, we got to hand them all in. So they had to hand them all in then.
Oh, yeah, it's just
but a lot of them we put down air raid shelters and all that, dumped them, and that's so they didn't get them, and we doctored a lot of the cars up and everything, so they couldn't use them when they did get them. but they started taking them and sending them to Japan. But they did so funny things. They'd come to a car, have a good engine in it, they'd smash the engine to pieces, it'd have a rotten body, they'd take the body. And other times you get a car with a really good body and a crook engine, they'd smash the body all up. It's one or the other, you know. They never come to a really good job. They'd smash one another up that was good. Couldn't follow them. But anyhow, they come then, the big time come. We had a bloke come in there, Billy Griffiths. If you've been watching the interview, you would have seen Billy Griffiths. He had 2 hands and 2 eyes blown out. He come into our hospital at just about the time the Japanese chucked it in. He lost his 2 eyes and his 2 hands. Billy Griffiths from England, English chap. And Weary Dunlop worked on him, operated on him. He worked for hours and hours in the operating theatre. We wounded and never come out of the theatre, Weary. And anyway, the time come that we got orders that we were going to be out on parade. And the next morning, just after daylight, they were going to take us and march us away. There was a few had to stay back with the hospital with the blind, and a couple of lost their eyes and hands and things. But anyhow, majority of us had to be all out on parade. So early in the morning, out come the big truck loaded with Japanese. Everything on the double, and they jumped out of the truck, fixed their bayonets up, rammed one up the spouts, and they lined us up. Next thing come blokes on push bikes with machine guns rigged up in the front of the push bikes. Then come trucks with the telegraph wires back onto the truck and telephone. And as they travelled along, they wound the wire up as they went. And down the route where they was going to take us to a long-term prison jail, where the natives all broke away when the Japs come and got out of it. And they were going to march us down there. And they had machine guns on the poking into the road in the middle of the road, like, and they brought them up with push bikes with the machine guns, and they broke us all up in 50, and they rode with in between the 50 have a break, so from here to that van, they'd have another a push bike there with a machine gun on those there, and on the side of the roads and everything, and that's how they marched us down into prison camp. But they took us down into a big swamp, and it was about an inch of water in it, just enough to be real wet and muggy for inspection, a search business. So they went through, and there was an English minister, Cameron, Church of England minister with us, and he had a gramophone with some records on. Before we left the hospital, I was standing near him. He said, "I can't carry this with me other gear." He said, "I'll leave it behind." I said, "Give it to me." I said, "It would be handy in prison camp, play a few records." I got through the search all right, the first search. Then we got to the gate to march in there, in through the gate. And as they're going in, the judge gave a bellow and a shout. And I kept him winding up, gramophone. Of course, I couldn't understand him. I don't suppose you can understand me neither, but I soon understood him because he gave me a couple of sharp jigs in the bum with the bayonet, so I dropped his gramophone. I don't know what happened to his gramophone. I dropped it. Anyway, we got inside in the jail, and there's a little tiny bit about, or a chain half long and about a chain half wide of lawn in there, but we were all lined up. We'd had no dinner, and didn't know what we were going to get for tea, but anyhow we lined up there, and we had a Dutch interpreter there. Weary Dunlop was out with the Jap, and anyhow the Dutch interpreter, he said, told Weary Dunlop, Jap said to break us all off. So Weary broke us off, and out come the sword, and whop! It just stopped right on Weary Dunlop's neck. We thought he said, oh, Weary said, "I think I have misunderstood a Japanese order." He said, "You better stay on parade." So we stayed on parade for a while, and then about another 10 minutes or so later, a bit of going on a bit with the Japs and that, we eventually got broken off. And for tea, some of the men got a little tiny bit of rice, but all medical staff was put aside, and we got a piece of bread about an inch long and about half an inch wide. That was their tea. That's all we got for tea. And anyhow, then the orders come the next day. we went in and we slipped on concrete. You couldn't lie out straight because there wasn't room. We had to lie on our side, and we've got big bare patches all on our hip bones here from the concrete. And anyway, we had nothing to put under us. Anyhow, we stayed there, and the next morning we got orders. Every man had to be haircut. It only had to be about half an inch long, bar the officers. Officers didn't have to get done. So anyhow, then it was the turnout. How we're going to get all these haircuts. A couple had clippers and a couple had scissors. And now we cut all the hair. Then about a week or four later, officers had to get theirs cut too. So anyhow, we was in this camp for about 6 weeks. Then they decided they'd move us off, so we went to another camp. It was a big Dutch army camp there, and we was there for some time. But while we was in there, the Japanese gave us an order to the officers that we had to get out on parade with a white band above our knee and left knee. So anyhow, we scrounged around and got hold of some stuff and made some sort of bands and put on. Got on parade, but then we were dismissed, and later on we found out that there was to make sure that our officers carried out a Japanese order correctly. But in this camp we had the intelligence mob come, and they had a big map there, and they would ask us all the particulars and everything of where we come from and all about and everything. They talk all in Japanese, but then when they'd finished, if we told them lies, which we did, well then they'd bash us up because we told them lies. They could talk as good as English as what we could, and sometimes better. And this is how it went on. But there was one English chap I remember in there. He was a tall, thin fella, and they tried to get him for information, and he wouldn't give it on. And they locked him up in a little brick place, only about 7 or 8 foot high, and only about 4 or 5 foot wide or something. They had him locked up there. They didn't feed him very much or anything. They tortured him to death. Anyway, after we was in there for a time, it wasn't a bad camp, that one, really, as far as the prison camp is concerned. But then one day they got us and they marched us off. We went in the train, they had their push bikes, marched us off up to the railway station. And then we boarded the train and away we went. We landed up near Batavia. And when we got up there, they marched, before we got into the real prison camp, they marched out in a big field there, sort of a big parade ground sort of thing. It was 4 deep. We met up with a lot of other men there, and there was a lot of men, and they put us in rows of 4, and they gauged us from each end. They had it jabbed at each end, and they put their rifle across their body with the bayonet on, and just left enough clearance for the bayonet on one side and the butt of the rifle on the other without hitting you. And of course, if you wasn't in a dead straight line, you got hit. Well then, when they did, they got stuck into you and bashed up. I didn't get bashed up there, I was lucky there. But anyhow, after they finished all that, we went up to they marched us off up to this other camp. And when we marched in, the first thing we saw was a Japanese chap locked in a barbed wire cage about 7 or 8 foot high, 4 or 5 foot wide or something like that, square. Anyhow, he had the most beautiful hair, and he refused to get his hair cut. So they locked him in there and punished him in the broiling hot sun with no water or food. How long before or after I wouldn't know, because we wasn't in that camp such a terrible long time. But when after we got in, they lined us all up again, and they rows of 4 head inspection. We had to see how long our hair were. That's the only other time it was brought in from when we first went in the first jail. But I was a bit query about it. I kept my hair down pretty low. But anyhow, any man with a hair much longer than about that much, he got bashed up. And if one got tired of bashing him, another one and come and bashed him. And bloke next to me got bashed up. And I thought, oh well, it'll be me next, and I was a bit shaky, I tell you. But anyway, I got through all right. But then when we got broke off, the thing was we had to get all these blokes' heads cut off. The rest of it cut right down, so that's what we did. But then we wasn't there such a terrible long time, and they marched us into another camp called Bicastle Camp. There we met up with about 650 Englishmen. And they was in a pretty bad way, really. And we was in that camp for not a great length of time, but for a while. And they decided then that they had to give us a test to see if we had dysentery or not. So we had to have a sample of our stool. They give us plastic paper and we had to wrap it up and stand on parade. We had to be out there at daylight in the morning, and we stayed there till late that night. No dinner or anything, but in all walks of life you get one bloke he's a bit of a larrikin, so he thought he'd have a joke. So he got a bit of wet clay and wrapped it up. He had a spare bit of plastic. And I got it later on in the afternoon. He said, "Oh, I'm sick of this, I'm going to eat it." And he started to eat it because everybody got it. They didn't know what he'd done. But anyhow, they never turned up. And anyhow, the next day it was on again. And they never turned up again. So then they decided a new way that they were going to give us a test. They had some glass tubes in a container, about 10 in the tube, and they only had about a quarter enough to do the men that they had to do. So anyway, what they did, they bought these glass tubes, and you had to go up, bend down. If you had trousers, you dropped them, but if not only G-strings, you dropped them, and they ram this up inside you, and to get a sample. They never looked to take aim, they just had a shot. Anyhow, it was pretty painful, but they run out of them tubes, so they got some old rusty tire wire and bent it over, hit it with a hammer, and flatten and bend it over, and they use that. They run out of that, and they use little bamboo sticks to do it. Well, that wasn't very good neither, not far as we was concerned, but anyway, that's all we heard of that. The next thing we knew, we was on the march, down to the boat. And then when we got down there, there was an old ship there. It was a wreck too. And we were there, and they put a trough about 2 foot long, I suppose, and a foot wide or a bit better. And it had about 4 inches of stuff in it, some sort of stuff, and they had a jap on each side with an knapsack spray. And we had to stand in it while they sprayed us with this stuff. And then they marched us up the passage, up the gangplank to the top, and down the ship's hold. Well, when we reckoned we got enough in there, we bailed up, but not for long. They still put a few hundred more in after we reckoned we had enough. They jammed us down there, and the boat had no bottoms in the lifeboats or nothing. The bottoms were all rotted out, and she was an old rusty old thing. Anyway, they got us down there, and we only had a little narrow space where we could sit up. We couldn't lie down because just above our heads, sitting up, there was another row of shells around the hole, and another one around that again. And we just had to sit there for 4 days and night there, and the only way we get to the toilet is by a ladder going up onto the top deck. And I got up there once, and I just got to the top, and he said, "All men finish." That's how they were, all men finished. No more toilets. So I'd been all the time, and I just couldn't stand it any longer. And I just sort of fainted like and fell over, and I rolled over to the toilet. I often think how lucky I was he didn't just give me the extra push over the side. But that's the only way I got to the toilet for 4 days. It was a pretty agonising sort of a trip. But we decided then that we were on the way over, we was heading for Singapore, as we found out. We decided that we were going to take the ship, do the nips over, take the ship. But first of all, we had to find out how much fuel was aboard. And we had Bogey Knight, one of the Australian best best operators on board with us from the Perth that was sunk. And we had Ronnie Creek, he lived down the Clounder now. And we had some other, the top men for the Navy with us. They got off, they swam off when the Perth got sunk. They swam those hours in water, but they eventually got off. Some of them got cut up in the natives when they landed, but a few of them got away. They was with us on board, so we had everybody could handle the ship. But we had to find out what the fuel we had, because if we couldn't get out of the waters, Japanese waters a bit, well, we were sunk, we'd have been killed just the same. But having the wireless operators, they said he's the best operator in the Australian Navy, Bogey Knight. But anyway, they found out we had no fuel. We only had enough to get to Singapore. We couldn't have got out of the Japanese waters at all. We'd have just been cutting around throats to try. But anyhow, we had to just go along with the boat. And we arrived in Singapore. They took us out to barracks. It wasn't a bad hut where they put us in there. But we were getting any food. The food wasn't coming to us at all. We hadn't got any. And our officers, Colonel Dunlop, was going to Japs all the time, but we didn't know until the day before we left to go further up in the jungle, was that they had issued it all right, but the other Pommy officers in charge of the mob that was in Changi, they were taking their issue and ours too. The Japs was giving them ours to issue to us, but they were keeping it. And they was doing all right, but we had nothing. We never had any Red Cross issues. We never got a thing. We was there for a fortnight, and then they decided. Then one morning we're moving off. So we walked down. We went down to the railway station, and aboard this old train. It was the only old carriages. There was about 32 in it. A few bags of rice, and you have to sleep on the rice. And that packed out, going up, the train passed, and Major Moon, one of our doctors, got his knee cut with a passing train, and it was that packed out, we couldn't move in the thing. But the thing was, when they come down through Malaya and down into Singapore, they blew the Causeway Bridge in the middle. And of course, we were heading for that. So we thought, how are we going to go now? We're going in the brink. But anyway, they climbed down. They went down, the engine climbed down nose first and lying almost on its side, down in the water, and climbed up the other side, and we were lurching right over, the water lapping inside the carriages, and we went down down a steep hill and climbed up the other side, lying more or less on its side as it come out of the where they'd blown it. They'd patched it up underwater somehow. But how good it was, well, we didn't know. And we stayed there. We was in there, and we never got no dinner or anything. We eventually, after 4 days, we arrived up into the destination of the train. We got out of the train there, and there was some trucks waiting, and Japs threw in a bunch of bananas. There was about not half enough to go to one truck. We thought, oh, these blokes might be a bit better up here. We got a bunch of bananas in the truck, but we didn't know what was in front of us. Then the driver come out, and one of the guards come out, and he had his face and nose, everything all covered over, mouth, everything, the lot, covered over. And we were standing in the back, and they took off. Well, talk about dust. We went through. You couldn't breathe. You couldn't see one another hardly. There's that much dust. Then we got to another Japanese camp, army camp. And there they tossed us out of the truck, and there you are, we had to walk then. We was on our feet. So we walked and walked, and we pulled up and camped on the side of the road at night and off again. Anyway, we eventually come to a place where we, after a few days walking, and we climbed up this a bit of a hill. It wasn't very steep on one side. We got up on top, and when we got up on top, where we had to go down the other side, believe me, it was frightening. It was so steep, and we were weak, and we were trying to hang on to a tree, and the thoughts between us was, well, this is it for us. We'll never get the strength to climb back out again. But anyhow, we got down the bottom, and where we got down the bottom, there was a Jap sitting on top of a stump, and he lined us all up, and he said, I'm sorry, he said, I didn't expect you for a fortnight. He said, we've got nowhere for you to camp. He said, you'll have to build one. He said, but he said, a lot of you men here, he said, are going to die. He said, I'm building a railway. He said, I'm going to build a railway. He said, and I'll build it over your dead bodies. He said, and sick men don't eat. So if you get sick, he said, you'll be on half rations. We weren't even getting enough to feed a mouse then, let alone half rations. We worked for a fortnight there, cutting bamboo, trying to clear a place to build a bit of a hut. And then all of a sudden, we're shifting. We're going tomorrow, shifting tomorrow. We had to climb up this mountain again. And that was a terrible job, I tell you. It was sick and weak men. But we got there, and we had to tramp through mud and slush then, and we got to another camp. Now this camp had two names. One was Tiger Valley, and the other was Top Intok. We camped at Top Intok, and then we worked from there onto the railway line. We had about a couple of k's or so, I don't know exactly how far it was, a couple of k's or so to walk to the railway every morning. And it was a pretty bad sort of a camp, this one. It was the worst. The monsoon rains hit us, cholera hit us, dysentery, you name it, beriberi, everything hit us there at this camp. We lost a terrible lot of men. We had to walk, go up a rock cliff. We had to fall a tree and cut nicks on to climb up of a morning, and we go out to the railway line, and we worked, and you wouldn't know when you come back. You wouldn't know, half the time we had no water, only a little bit of dry rice, no salt, no sugar. Our sugar ration's supposed to be a teaspoonful every 10 days, which we never got. And when we did get a little bit, we gave to the men that were more or less dying. And that's what we were doing in this camp. And my mate, well, I say my mate is from Charleville, a bloke about 16 stone. He was on the hammer and drill with me. He got very sick in the end, and he was in a bad way. And all this fellow wanted was a cigarette. Well, there was no way there to get cigarettes. But I did happen to notice that the Japs had a tent, and they had a few cartons of cigarettes stacked up in the tent for themselves. So one night I thought, well, I'll get poor old Jack some cigarettes. I'll sneak out. And I snuck out and I come to the Jap guard and I said, Bango Pitchy, speedo, 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 bango. Meant I want to go to the toilet quick. So I go. So I, off for my leg of my life, I snuck down, and I crept my hand underneath and I snuck a carton out of cigarettes. Silly thing to do, I could have been shot on sight. But I snuck it out and I planted it, went back to where I was sleeping, just got back and the rain come tumbling down. So I thought, all my cigarettes. So I snuck back out again, same thing, speedo, banjo, and said, Jap, let me go again. I come back with him hooked up under my arm. He got in out of the rain, so I managed to go the long way around. I got back and I planted him. And I was able to give Jack a cigarette. Every day I give him a cigarette. He never ever knew where I got him from. But he died at 3 stone, Jack. He was 16 stone. He was 3 when he died. But then we was going out, as I was saying, walking out of this railway line every morning. And me and my mate, we got an idea in our head, what about we carry the Jap dinners? They had the Dixies. They had soup in there. So we thought, well, what about we carry that out for them? So we went up and, oh yeah, we'd carry. We carried out the Dixies. We went pretty quick, hid behind a clump of bamboo, drank a few mouthfuls, peed in it to make it up again. And that went all right. There's a couple of mouthfuls or so was pretty good, really. But then a couple of other blokes got onto it, what we was up to. And they turned around and they beat us for them, and they drank the lot and filled it all. And that caused hell, of course. We was in a lot of trouble over that. But it was good while it lasted. Bit of soup and one thing and another, you know. And when we come back in of a night time, it was a terrible thing. You had to come back in. Monsoons was rain. We tried to bury, and we buried up to 11 in one hole, but the monsoon rains and that, they just floated to the top. So the only thing we could do was to burn. So we'd have to go out and gather bamboo and bring them in and light a fire and then carry our dead out and put them on the bamboo fire to burn them at night and that sort of thing. And then we had one bloke, me and another fellow, carried him in. He, big bloke, he got cholera bad. And he got it just after we got out in the railway line. And one morning, and he jumping and twisting all around with this cholera cramps, something terrible he had. And anyway, they just wouldn't let it take him into the camp where the doctor was. So he just lied there all day till we knocked off about dark that night. And me and another bloke tried to carry him in. We had a terrible job. We got him in, got him down this rock face, and got him in. But he only lasted about an hour after we got him in. He was too far gone. But I consider myself very lucky there, because I was just had me breakfast one morning. It was done just watery rice, been out in the rain all night, cooking out in the rain. It was pap, we called it. It was only like milky water. And I met a little nuggety bloke I knew pretty well. He said, "Do you like a bit of breakfast, bit of extra breakfast?" He said, "I can't eat mine." He said, "Don't feel like it." He said, "You have it." So I said, "Oh, thanks." Tipped it into me Dixie, put it up to me mouth, and something said, "Don't eat it, don't eat it." So I didn't tell him. I took it away and I dumped it. I come back from the railway line that evening. He was dead. It was cholera. So I was lucky I didn't take it, because I might have been gone myself if I had it done. But anyway, we worked on that railway line and that, and it was a big job doing these piles, and was out there where me and another chap from Brisbane, and we had to saw a big girder in halves. The saw was no good to start with, but he put a block under each end of this girder, and as we cut through, so it jammed, and he wouldn't let it lift the middle up and put anything on it. He just kept at it anyhow. We kept going till it couldn't go no more. The saw all buckled, and he knocked out a fellow off the bridge where we was working on, and he welded me on the back with a crowbar. That's why I got a crook back today. But anyway, we finished up. We got the line finished, and we went up then and done maintenance. Went up to a camp called Kinsaya Camp, and further up the jungle, and we done a lot of maintenance from there. And I remember one poor English fella, we had to go out and get some wood for the cookhouse, and I was in charge of the party to go out to get this wood, and I seen some nice wood there, picked it up, and an English fella come over, he was crying. He said, "Please leave me that piece of wood." He said, "I want it for a pillar." He said, "Just nice for a pillar." So I let him keep it for his pillar. But that camp was right on the river, that camp, and quite often we had to go and poke the dead people off the bank of the river, hooked up on the bank. We had to poke them out in the stream so they get washed down further. But anyhow, it was there that I got pretty sick with dysentery. I'd had a lot of malaria, and I got very sick with dysentery there, and I was sleeping out on the next to the latrines. There was only a hole in the ground. I was sleeping there because I couldn't go anywhere else to sleep, because I couldn't leave the toilets. It was that bad, and Major Corlett, the doctor, he'd come along one night. He said, "I caught you at last." He said, "I've been waiting to catch you." He said, "You're going down with the gang tomorrow." There was a mob going down out of the jungle. We'd finished the line and everything, and he said, "You're going down with them tomorrow." He said, "I've been waiting to catch you." He said, "I knew you were crook." So anyway, there was another bloke named Jim Riley, and we were both pretty crook with dysentery, about the worst in the mob at that time. Out of that gang, there was more sicker men down further. But anyhow, we got on the train there, and we travelled down to Tarso. And not only frightened of that railway line, because we'd done a lot of sabotage on it. Every time the Jap turned his back, we ordered the gauge when we were setting it up in final business. And it was like a donkey's iron leg. The train was squealing and scratching. You get along, but apart from that, I sat for the whole day hanging onto one truck to the other with me legs on each bumper of the train, with no clothes on, because I couldn't get in the carriage because the toilet You don't pass much, only slime, blood and pain. That's all you get. You pull into your station and there'll be native women and kids all there, and there you were in the naked, hanging onto the truck in agony. But anyhow, we eventually got down to a place called Tarso. Tarso was a place where they took all the sick men from the jungle and all the railway line and made that the base for the sick coming out of the jungle. And was there and another young bloke named Adam Munro and myself. Adam was from down Sydney, and we got into this, into the death ward there. When you went into there, you didn't come out, they said, but I got in it a couple of times and got out. But poor old Adam, he did too. We were both together. And the main thing was you wouldn't have any coconut oil or anything. If you could strain your coconut and get a bit of oil or something, you weren't allowed to have it if you had dysentery. No way, that was a no-no. But anyhow, Colonel Dunlop come around one day, he said, "What are you two blokes got? What are you having?" He said, "You're picking up a bit." He said, what are you having?" We said, "Nothing." He said, "Yes, you are." He said, "What are you having?" Oh, I said, "Well, I said, we're having a little bit of coconut oil on our rice." "Oh," he said. Well, from then on, they wiped the idea of having coconut oil, or wiped the idea of having no oil. They let you have oil, and I reckon they put a lining on their stomachs. I got out of it, but Adam Munro, he got out of there, but he didn't live long after he died. But it done me a lot of good, I'm sure of that. I'm sure the coconut oil on the rice, it helped me to put, not only to eat it, but I think it helped to put a lining on my stomach as well. But we lost hundreds of men there at that place. But I did mention back further, when the Englishmen back on Java in the Bickertsville camp, they joined us up in the jungle just after we started on the railway line. 650 of them, and they only about 50 of them lived in 6 weeks. They all died. They were in a terrible bad state when they come up there. They just died. But one morning, when we was going out on the railway line up there, I should have told you this before, the Japs always said, "Well, we want 200 men, 300 men." And Weary Donald would say, "Well, I've only got 180. I can't give you 200 men. We want them." Anyhow, they put up a big blitz one morning, and they've got the big heads come up in vehicles, and they really put on a turn. And Weary Dunlop stood up and he said, "Shoot me, kill me, do what you like." But he said, "Don't you ever touch my men." So anyway, they kept that old Weary, and they said, "Well, we want 3 more, and we promise you they have a very easy job today." So Weary picked out the best of his sick men, almost dying, you might say. He gave it to them. Their job was to roll a 44-gallon drum of diesel right away up through the mud, halfway up to their knee, round and up on top of the mountain and down the other side. That was their easy job for the day. But Weary Dunlop, he got an idea when the Japs went that they'd come around, a long way around, come up on top of the hill. They couldn't go down because there's no track or jungle. He decided then that they'd come around there and take it out on us on the railway line. They'd leave the Jeep on top of the hill and they'd walk down and get onto us when we was building this bridge. But anyway, Weary got an idea that's what they were going to do. And he knew we had no water, little food, as always of course. So he got 2 bamboo containers, filled them with water, and he headed off out to us. And he got out there just as the Japs were coming down the hill from where they left their vehicles, coming down to us. They were going to take it out on us good and proper. And anyhow, Weary stayed there and had big rows with them. And he stayed there with them till they went, and he waited there till they went back off the hill. He heard their vehicles go, and then he headed back in to do his sick parade. And he was a very sick man too, with Weary Dunlop. He had dysentery, he had beriberi, he had ulcers, he had everything you could think of. And he still worked. He would not have one thing extra than the men didn't get. I was lucky as far as ulcers was concerned. I got 4 or 5 started on my knees, and a native told me to cut them out. And lucky I found a little pocket knife, and I used to dig them out. The other men said, "You'll get bad ulcers yet." I said, "No, not with the natives told me, keep cutting them," and I kept cutting them out. And it was my cousin, was one of the first that they decided, he had one from the knee down to the ankle, that they would try and scrape it out. They sharpened a spoon up and got him onto the table there, onto a bamboo platform of the table, and they scraped it, all his bones, all his flesh, scraped the lot out. And that was the first good night sleep he had for ages. But then we got down after that, we got out of that, and they took us down to another camp then. It was about 35 miles from Bangkok, north of Bangkok, on Kompanong. And there we went into a camp there. It was a big camp. We had not bad huts there, and we was in this camp, but we had to dig a trench right around the place, about, well, anything from 10 to 15 acres, could be more. It had to go down about 5 foot deep, about 4 or 5 foot wide. It was all wet, muddy clay, and we had to build it from the edge of the trench up on a slope about 12 foot wide in the bottom, up to the top, about 6 foot at the top. And we had to build that all the way around the camp. We had to plant grass all the way around it. That's where, when I was digging down in the trenches, Jap, I had a army cap on with a bit of khaki on the top. That's all I had, and he used to know me by that bit of khaki, and he used to belt me on the neck with a stick every time he walked up and down. And anyway, I had to get rid of me hat. But anyway, we had to build this blooming thing around, and then we had to dig trenches between the huts through graves, and you had to be living in the grave. You had to dig it about 12, 14 foot long and so wide, side by side. So when the water come, we had to put a machine gun nest on the corner of all the buns, around the big bun, so that when the time come, they were just going to march us into these graves, and we had to sit up 11 in a grave, and then they just turned the machine gun on us. But anyway, we only had a few days to go, a week to go, when something happened, and we didn't get shot. And then we were going to be shot the next weekend, but the next weekend in between, the bomb was dropped. Now, we had a bloke pretty crooked, and he was separated and leprosy and that, and you had to be over 25 before you could go near him. They wouldn't let you near him. So I was one I volunteered to go. I was over 25, and another bloke volunteered, and we decided to go over to help him and see what we could do for him. And as we walked out, I turned around, my mate wasn't there. I turned around to see where he was, and I sung out, "Come and have a look at this. You'll never see anything like it before." But not knowing what it was the bomb that they dropped. And it was a wonderful sight from a distance. It was a wonderful sight to see, but it wasn't very pleasant knowing what it was, if we'd have known what it was, of course. But it was not long after that one day the officers all went over to went away down the Jap compound. We didn't know what was on, but our doctor, dysentery doctor, Captain Street, he was coming back after some time, and we said, "What went wrong? What's wrong? War over?" He said, "Yeah, war's over." He had his head down, he never lifted his head or nothing. He just said, "It's over." There was there was about a dozen Indians locked up in a bamboo cage. They had no room to move and no toilet, nothing. And the first thing we did, we went over and broke the wire and smashed it up and let them out. And that was the end of that. It was some time after that before we really got released, because we stayed there for about a month after. In fact, there was word coming through from America, from the Yanks, that was with us. They flew straight in, picked them up and took them straight home. We was about a month before we got out. But the planes come over and dropped food, and didn't drop food, but they dropped parachutes out and down with, we thought there'd be food for sure, but it wasn't. It was boots and clothes and all that sort of thing. And funny in one way, the Dutch used to try and get everything they could get hold of above us, and this parachute was coming down, he rushed to get it, and as it hit the ground, it rolled and hit him and broke his leg. And it was a parachute full of boots. He hadn't had none for a long while, but he got all he wanted with that bundle.
Broke his leg.
Broke his leg.
Couldn't wear his boots.
Yeah, broke his leg. And they parachuted a lot of clothes down to us, and they issued them out, and they got a suit and took it to Weary Dunlop. They said to Weary, we got you a suit. He said, has everybody got a suit? They said, no, not yet, sir. And he said, I don't have one until every one of my men got suits. So that's what happened there. But when we got free the first night, some of the fitter men, they wanted someone to, they were going to walk the button around the button all night in case some of the Japs that didn't know the war was over. And Weary Dunlop said no. He said, too dangerous. He said, you might get hurt. He said, I'll do it. So he started about 5 o'clock, and he was there at 7 o'clock next morning, still walking around with the gun. He got off the Japs. He still walked the bun. Yeah, he walked around and around all night to keep an eye on us. Said that no one got in to hurt us. He's a good man, eh?
Had the Japs taken off by then, Jack?
No, they hadn't taken off, but they had Weary disarmed all that was around us. But they didn't know others coming in that didn't know that we were free, see?
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't know the war was over.
Yeah.
And they would watch them. And the Koreans, the ones that give us a terrible lot of torture, they come and ask us to help them get back to Japan. The Japs stripped them except for their hat and their trousers. And they wanted us to help them to get back to Japan. Yeah, cheap one. Yeah. They were crook like that, you know. But anyway, we eventually got back to, after about a month we got down to Bangkok. And we were there for a couple of weeks. We had to walk across the bridge that they blew. And we got finished up, we got down to Bangkok. We were there for a couple of days, and they flew us into Singapore. And then they sent some of them home by plane. There's some of the one that was a bit sicker than others, they sent it by plane. And I happened to be one that was sent by plane, and a couple from Ipswich. And that we come by plane. They flew us very low, because when they first come and took some of the troops and flew them home, they flew in an ordinary flight, and when they come down to land, they just passed out and died. They couldn't stand the attitude.
Yeah, right.
So they flew us just above the waterline. They followed the coast, and the only time we flew more or less overland was down to the Gulf of Siam. And the pilot said, "Come and have a look at the Gulf of Siam." Yeah, well, we'd seen all the Gulf of Siam we wanted to see. Yeah. And they when we were coming, they kept coming back. The engineer kept coming back. We thought, wonder what's going on here. The engine seemed to be ticking over all right. And he said, what's gone wrong? Oh, he said they're going to let the Jap fuel the planes up there at Bangkok, and they never screwed the petrol caps on. And on the old D3, the fuel was right over the engine, and the fumes was coming out and the petrol coming out over the engine. But he said, we can't go back. He said, we're too far gone. He said, we've got to keep going. But he said, we're trying to pump all the fuel, use it all out of the right wing, and pump it from the left to the right to keep it down, so to try and get through all right. Because he said, well, she could burst into flame any time. So that was good, letting them fuel the plane, not checking it, eh? So anyhow, we eventually got there, and we flew home from there to Singapore, to Darwin. It took 3 days to get to Darwin. We got to Darwin and spent a few days in Darwin. Then we come back down to Brisbane, arrived in Amberley 2:30 on Sunday evening. And although was only away 5 years or more, it seems strange. All the men and all the women look so fair, they look white. Snow white, they did. Couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were coming out of Sunday school and churches at that time of that afternoon. The Red Cross people were there to meet us. They had a wonderful, wonderful meal at Amberley waiting for us. But we looked at one another and they asked me to get up, and I got up and just thanked them and said we couldn't possibly eat that. Impossible to eat it. We couldn't eat it. So we had a little bit of jelly, a little bit of ice cream, and that was all we had. And they got it to Holland Park, to the hospital, and they had a nurse each waiting for us when we got there. It was good.
What did you weigh when you came back, Jack? What did you weigh when you went over to? I know you're a pretty big fella.
13 stone 7. I come home with 5 stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a nurse each. They looked after us like dogs all night. We ate with the sisters in the sisters' little room. Then we got a bit of leave to come home. Then we went back to hospital, and I 7 months in the hospital there. They transferred us from there across to Greenslopes, and was in Ward 17 there for seven months.
7 months you were in?
Yeah. But I had 57 doses of malaria before I came home. Then I had a few when I came home. I had 63 bouts of malaria from when I come home. I had maybe ciliary dysentery. I had beriberi, happy feet, hookworm, and all those things. And besides, I forgot to mention about having the operations in the prison camp. We had a big bloke. He had appendicitis operation. He had to be operated on, and 3 of us went and held him down while they operated on him. And not knowing, then a couple of weeks later, they had to do the same for me. Anesthetic, and that was a very, very scarce moderation, I can tell you. We had one bloke, a professional boxer from down Sydney, Jim Menzies. He fought under the name of Jimmy Starr, a terrible nice bloke, and he was up with Colonel Coates, who's a doctor and a surgeon, and they used to get Jimmy Starr to knock him out so they could cut their legs off with a saw, hand saw. And they just, Jimmy'd knock him out, and while he's out, they'd knock the leg off for him and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty rough sort of a setup.
How did they do your appendix, Jack? Did you have any anaesthetic? Or?
No, just held me down.
They just held you down?
Like the other bloke.
Must have been horrendous pain.
Up here, not here, up here, like a big furnace in your chest. Just like a big fire in your chest, a forge burning up in your chest, but not so much here.
Oh, they cut you down here, bud.
Yeah,
but the pain was all in the chest.
Oh yeah, that's where you got the pain up here. I suppose it's a type of heartburn, I don't know. I know when Weary was going to do it, he always marked out just like that, ready to cut. And he went like that and I jumped. He said, I haven't even touched it yet. I said, no. Made me feel a fool, and I just had to settle right down to it and let them do it, that's all. But it wasn't as bad as what people think, because you knew either get it out or die.
Yeah, yeah.
So therefore, it was better to get it out. So just settle back on it and let it go.
Did you stick a lump of wood in your teeth? Or?
No. The other bloke before me, a couple of weeks before me, he abused Colonel Dunlop. He apologised, he swore, he yodeled, he sung, he done everything. Wicked, eh? But I don't think he got home neither. When we was down at that non-competent camp, the Japs wanted so many men, I forget how many 100 men they wanted, to go to a Red Cross hospital camp. And Weary Dunlop, like all of us, we were sure that they wasn't going to hospital camp. But they kept on a Weary Dunlop. He had to let them go. And he fought against it, but he had to let them go because he's in doubt. They said that they were going to a first-class Red Cross hospital camp that had been just been built and finished in perfect home, hospital home. So he had to let them go. And this bloke, they wanted the real sick men for the job to go to this hospital home. And this bloke, he was one, and he was still on his stretcher. And I can remember seeing him now getting carried out on this rice bag stretcher by 4 blokes. And we give him everything we could muster around the place to give to him because we was in doubt. Anyhow, they took him right away up to a place, we called it the Magooey Road. And one of my mates, Billy Ambrose from Ashgrove, he went to the medical orderly with them. And they went right up to Magooey Road. It was a death camp. That's all it was. It was just, went up there for death, to kill them. That's all they did, and that did. Oh, there's a few little tidbits I suppose I could mention about. While in prison camp, we had some of the American chaps that managed to survive off the Eastern, that joined us on Java in the prison camp. They were really top-line blokes, really good, happy-go-lucky blokes, and really top mates in the prison camp. I'd just like to mention them. And there's a few other little things. Now, there were some natives going up right up the top end of the jungle, come past through our camp one night. I snuck out and I swapped them my overalls. There was more or less only rags, but I swapped them for an egg. And that egg was more good to me than a pair of overalls. I wouldn't worry about that. A G-string was doing me all right, but I did like an egg. It was something to eat. And I swapped them for that. And the few other things I did one time where I was very desperate. Not that we had a chance to buy anything very much. You managed to get down on the river and a barge up to come in, and the Japs wasn't watching. You might have been able to trade something sometimes, not very often. But I thought, well, how am I going to trade money for something that I wanted, a bit of food, because I got no money. So I worked out that I had a quinine bottle, and it was pretty original, it had a cork and all in it. And I thought, now, what say I do something like this? And I shouldn't have done it, I guess, but when you're hungry, you do anything. So where we was building the railway line, there's a lot of quartzy sort of stones. So I broke up some about the size of quinine, broke it up and filled the bottle right up. A couple of blokes said, what are you doing with that? Oh, something to do. I did it when we were supposed to have something to eat. I broke these stones up and I filled the quinine bottle right full, stuffed a bit of stuff in the top of it, put the cork back in, and that night when everything was quiet, I snuck down. There was a mob of Chinese passing through, going way up the line, forced labour they were, but they carried a wealth with them. All their wealth was on their belt. So I sneaked down to the camp. We weren't supposed to be near them, but I thought I'd give it a go. So I snuck down. It was dark, and they come out. A couple of them come out, and I said quinine, and they wanted quinine, all right. They nearly knocked me down for it. So they paid me what I wanted for it. I forget the exact amount. I think about 8 tickles for the bottle of quinine, and I disappeared out of sight very quick because I could have been killed by the Japs from talking to them. I shouldn't have been there. Another reason they found out, when they found out it was stone, I could have been slaughtered also. But at least I had a couple of bob, so when I got down near a barge, I might have been able to buy a little bit of tucky, you know, something to eat. But that's how things went. You did anything to get something to eat. It was terrible. We went down one time to a camp, had to go down and get supplies to a camp where there was a lot of Englishmen there in this camp, and it was dinner time. And they had some little fish there. It had been lying out in the sun, and there was all maggots in the little fish. So they wouldn't eat them, they couldn't eat that. But anyway, we got them, we ate them, maggots and all. It was all tucker. We didn't worry about that. That's how we survived a lot, because we eat anything. The Australians got into anything. They mice, we bred cats when before we went up the jungle, and after we come out of the jungle, any cats had kittens, we'd look after them as though they were gold, because when they got a bit older they were in the stew, so they were pretty good, because we didn't get much meat at all, hardly any meat, but just this rice, and they put some stuff like seaweed. It was like potato vine, but it tasted something like seaweed, but you could only drink the juice. You couldn't eat the actual thing. It was like lumps of rope. Couldn't chew it, bitter and tough as nails. You couldn't eat it. Anyhow, that's what we had to live on. And no tea. We never had no tea to drink. They used to, when they cooked the rice in the qualities, the rice had burned black out around the outside and leave a thin crust. Well, they'd put that in a drop of water if they had the water and boil that up, and we get a bit of that to eat. But when we got down to Kinsaya camp, no, I'm sorry, not Kinsaya, non-combatant camp, the Japs got a lot of little ducks, baby ducks, and they allotted so many to us to look after. They had a roll call on them. But as they got a bit older, they drifted around. There's a bit of a lagoon there, and they used to swim in that and all sorts. They used to live on the maggots from the toilet. It was only ground toilets, and the maggots would be out everywhere, and they'd be there. They'd eat these anyhow. We'd started to knock them off a bit. But the trouble was to get them cooked. So what we used to do, about three of us would get together, and when we go to wash our dixie, we were very lucky. It was generally dirty and grimy water because so many men went through it and they didn't have the water. We'd all get a little better, and we'd take it and put it in our dixie and pluck the duck and put it in there, wrap it up in bags as much as we get hold of. Anything we get hold of, we wrapped it in and put it under our head for a pillow, because if they caught you with it, well, you'd just about be shot because you pinched a Japanese duck. So you couldn't have that. But some people here would remember Freeleggers in Gympie here. Well, one of their blokes, Cod's Freeleggers, he was a real character. And he pinched a duck one day and he looked around, there was no Japs around, so he went and placed himself up in the corner, and he's plucking the duck. And along come upon the officer, Colonel McFarlane. He wasn't a very good type of a bloke at all. He reckoned Australians were all a mob of robbers and thieves, because that mob that I seen went up to Magui Road, we scrounged everything we could to get them, and they reckoned we was pinching stuff. With our own stuff, we give everything we had to try and help them blokes before they went. But anyway, he come up and he said, "Freeleggers," he said, "what are you doing?" He said, "I'm plucking a duck, sir." Well, he said, "Don't get plucking any more ducks." He said, "Or I'll hand you over to the Japs." He said, "You don't get plucking their ducks." He said, "Just leave them alone." For Freeleggers, he finished his plucking his duck. Anyhow, a few days later, he's up there and he's plucking another duck. And up comes the Colonel again. He said, "What are you doing, Freeleggers?" He said, "I'm plucking a duck, sir." He said, "What's under the bag?" He said, "I got another one, sir." He had another duck under the bag. He was plucking that. Oh, he's a card. And he had a way about him. You know, he had that happy-go-lucky way. Nice bloke. Yeah, those sort of things that kept the camp going a bit, you know. Yeah, kept things cracking along a little bit, yeah. Yeah, he was plucking a duck, yeah. Oh, some funny things happened. You know, up there on the top camp, or Tiger Valley camp, had two names, there was a mob of forced labour. The Japs went around in a circle and drove everything in front of it. Women, kids, babies, pregnant women, you name it. They just drove them in front of them in droves. And they was up to their waist in mud and slush. And they come through to our camp. They guarded them all night away from our camp, out from here halfway up to the corner up there. They kept them away from us, but they were there. But when they passed through our camp, it was just before dark, the fathers and that was begging and crying for food for the babies. and that, but we couldn't give them anything. First we'd be shot if we tried, but another thing, we didn't have it to give them, those poor kids. And they went up further, they had another 5 or 6 mile or more of mud and slush to go through, and they were dying on the blooming roadside. And the Japs went up with their trucks behind them, running over their bodies. And there's one fellow, he wandered away from others a bit. He had maggots in his ankles from ulcers, and they were going right through his ankle. You could see right through his ankle. There was nothing left, no meat left in his ankle whatsoever. It was all gone. These maggots in there, but the dozens. And I went and I managed to pinch a bit of kerosene with the Jap light. When the Jap wasn't looking, I managed to pinch his light and got a bit of kerosene. I went and I threw it into his ankle. And the maggots all flew out of his ankle everywhere. He was just absolutely rotten with maggots. Poor beggar. And he was marching. Next morning he was gone. He was marched off. They took him away. He kept going. How far he got, I wouldn't lie. He wouldn't last long, I shouldn't imagine. All that mud and slush in it as well. They just took him up and they were just slaughtered. And when they finished up there with them, the forced labour, they just let them go. And that's why they come floating down the river, drowned, died in the river. And we used to have to poke them away from our camp with a stick, because they just lodged up in a tree or something, you know.
Oh, that was guys from other camps up the river further?
Yeah, up the river further, further up the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, they die and they just go down probably the water and fall in and couldn't get out or something. And they come floating down. Yeah, it was a terrible lot of death. It was a terrible thing. You got that way, you'd seen that much of it. That many dead that you just took no notice. And the way those Japs treated those women and kids that we saw on Java and rammed them into concentration camps and that, it was shocking. They see little kiddies riding the bikes to school. When they took it out on working parties on Java, they just come up and they kick them flying off the bike and jump and smash the bike to pieces on them and just laugh and keep going. And they used to laugh at our blokes that died too. And that's what made us more determined that they wasn't going to get me, they wasn't going to laugh at me. No way in the world. But anyway, we'd all got finished in the end of it, and one part of it early in the piece, there was a woman, she bought a mob of horses that I broke in, and she wanted to know if the bloke she bought them off who broke the horses, and he told her. He said he's in the army now. Well, she said, that's no problem. She said, we'll soon get him out of there. But anyhow, she tried to get me out, but she couldn't get me out, and I wouldn't have come anyway. I went in there to do a job, and I wasn't going to come out for breaking horses. But when I come home, I got on the old cow horse at the home, and pricked his ear. That was good enough for me. I was off. But before that, before I went away in the army, there was Tex Morton buck jumper show. I rode a few horses for Tex Morton, but this time he come into the town, and all the boys talking about it, what they do. I said, well, we'll go down tonight and we'll have a ride and see how we go. So we went down, but none of them were going to have a ride. I rode the best rider out of 4 out of other men that went, but none of the army blokes went in. I rode the best, so I won a prize for the best rider out of 4. And then I had a crack at riding Mandrake, but Mandrake threw me easy too. But I had army clothes on, army boots, and the trousers just come up my legs like that. I had no grip, and he threw me sky high. I reckon I nearly... Born in 1917, and the war, I'm over 80 now, going on for 81, and I don't think I've done too bad really, considering what I've been through. The war is over, but never over for us, bloke.